Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A little sharing. During the month of December, I conducted a total of 4 japa retreats. One of them was here. And one of the slides that emerged as like a super attractive image was the image of a devotee with his back to us, raising his arms, seeing the form of Krishna, calling Krishna, Krishna, and Krishna appeared, and there's different devotee here, different devotee there. So somehow that became a big inspiration for those who were participating, and myself included. So much so that previously I was not inspired in the same way as afterwards when chanting the Hare Krishna mantra at the beginning, like we just did. Hare Krishna, calling for Krishna to come, and guess what? He comes. He comes because of the devotion of his devotee. Now, once upon a time, a few years ago, I was a college kid. And when I got introduced to the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, there were 2 sources. Popular persons at that time, all across America, including the university that I was attending, Prabhupada's chanting Hare Krishna, and another fellow who was chanting Hare Krishna. I don't think I need to mention his name, but he was previous to his visiting the college circuit, he was a professor at Harvard University. He took a little leave of absence and went to India, and while he was in India, he met a Swami who happened to be an impersonalist. And he really bought into impersonalism. And one of the things that his guru did and that he did was chanting Hare Krishna. So there are these option A and option B models of chanting Hare Krishna. And because he was a Harvard professor, he was good with words. And one of the expressions that he repeated when chanting was a kind of mystical sounding, close his eyes, tilt his head back, become one with the chant, like a mystical voice, become one with the chant. And I thought, wow, that's cool. What does that mean? If you don't ask them what does it mean question, you probably won't find out what it means. So he kept saying it. I was attracted to the Mahamantra, and a little bit, he was a charismatic fellow, but I decided to check out when he said, he explained what it means, in his way of explaining. In the beginning, there's you and the chant, and become one with the chant means finally it's just a chant. And then I understood what he meant. It's like you become Krishna. And I said, forget it. Poor Krishna. I'm sorry. I can't accept that kind of approach. I didn't know what it was. It just didn't resonate at all. Didn't make any sense. You become one with the chant means you become the chant. You merge with the identity of Krishna, who is not person, he's imperson. Otherwise, how can you merge with? But the chanting of Hare Krishna is a age-old process. We've heard this before, no harm in saying, because tomorrow you all will be experiencing and celebrating the appearance day of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who came to inaugurate the congregational chanting of the holy name. And he didn't teach you chant so that you can become the chant. That's not what he taught. So, the chanting leads to an awakening of a forgotten relationship. That's the teaching that our founder Acharya gave. Here's a little Prabhupada story, just to kick it off. The very first time there was public chanting in New York City was the result of their chanting at the storefront, 26 2nd Avenue. So it started like nothing, and then humble, and then a handful, and then it became, very attracted group, packed. I don't know if any of you have ever been to New York City and have seen 26 2nd Avenue, but it's quite small. Quite small. And as time went on, the place was packed, And the chanting started like sedate, and then Prabhupada had a way of inspiring people through the kirtan to get up and dance, and he would encourage them. He would even, in some cases, instruct them to dance. So it became like a dancing party. I mean, not calisthenics or show off, but, a genuine expression of joy, a preliminary to Bhava Bhakti from Sadhana Bhakti. Preliminary. But the joyfulness was exhibited by that dancing. And some persons didn't like dancing, and that's fine. And some persons liked dancing, so it was kind of a mix. And it became so joyful that one of the leaders of 26 2nd Avenue, his name was Brahmananda, he one day approached Prabhupada and asked, is it okay if we can take this wonderful ecstatic chanting into the public? And Prabhupada's reply, I heard this from Brahmananda, Prabhupada's reply was, I was just waiting for you to ask. So it was yes. And then he said, but we don't want to have a problem with the police, so get a permit. So they got a permit. And the permit they got was on the Lower East Side, because 26 2nd Avenue is the lower part of Manhattan. And then just a little bit east is Lower East Side. Lower East Side is not, it's a little grungy. It's not like unsafe, but it's not Central Park either. It's like, it's a little on the unsafe side. So they got a permit, and then there's videos of their marching down the street to 8th Street to the park, Tompkins Square Park, celebrated place. Kirtan for 3 hours. And when they're having kirtan, they sat down. But initially they sat down, and then they started doing what they did at the storefront. Some would stand, and not just stand, but dance. And that was, it was quite a spectacle for the New York City people. It's not a packed park, but parks are nice in the middle of a city. And so people came and they were checking it out. And at the end, I wasn't there, but I heard this from another one of the devotees, Satsarup Maharaj, who was there. Prabhupada stood, and, like the drum roll at the beginning, he's a world acharya in the making. What's he going to say? And, there's that celebrated photograph. He's standing there with his hands folded before him. And there's a big church steeple in the background and a big elm tree right next to where he was standing. And then Prabhupada's words were, I've not come to teach you something new. I've come to remind you of that which you have forgotten. Cool. I mean, from India, very cultured person in the midst of not at all cultured people, from, miscellaneous backgrounds, both the devotees and the public. It was quite a crowd. You've seen the photograph. I've not come to teach you something new. I've only come to remind you of that which you have forgotten. Meaning, knowledge of Krishna and love for Krishna is intrinsic. On the soul platform, it's with us, but forgotten. And the reminder through chanting is to remind us of what we've forgotten. And then, he described a little bit what the Hare Krishna mantra means, and not a big, long lecture because it's a new crowd. And then prasadam. And they went back to the temple or to the storefront. And in that way, the Hare Krishna movement began. And I was thinking a little bit this morning, during breakfast actually, Rupanuga's question from yesterday. There may have been persons not present, so I'll repeat what his question was in the context. I had said something during class, and he was questioning, what the meaning of that something was. There were three godbrothers. All three were disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta. One was Prabhupada, another was Ban Maharaj, who was one of the two sannyasis that was sent to England to establish Gaudiya Math Center in England. And the third was Akinchana Das Babaji, who was also a disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta, and not so much in the mission, but certainly in the mood. And his disposition was kirtan. He chanted japa literally all day long, and whenever there was kirtan, he'd chant the rest of the day in kirtan. And his enthusiasm for kirtan was otherworldly, which means his enthusiasm for taking shelter of the holy name, japa or kirtan, otherworldly. Celebrated person in Gaudiya Math, disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta. So there they were, the three of them sitting in a room. Apparently Prabhupada had an assistant with him, because otherwise how would you know? And the discussion, Akinchana Das Babaji was asking a question. Both of you were given the assignment, because many disciples were given the same assignment, to go to the English-speaking parts of the world and propagate Krishna consciousness, the message of Lord Chaitanya. One of you was successful, the other was not. Why? Both of you are erudite, both of you have command of the philosophy, both of you have deep love for Lord Chaitanya. One of you was successful, the other was not. Why? And then it was like, there was silence, and so he gave the answer. It was his question. Because Swami Prabhupada had particular faith in the holy name, indicating the other didn't have equal quantum of faith in the holy name. He had faith in Lord Chaitanya and faith in Bhaktisiddhanta and other credentials, but not the same quantum of faith. So Rupanuga's question was, does that mean the devotees today don't have that kind of faith, the faith that's necessary to spread Krishna consciousness in a dynamic way? Because what Prabhupada did was, exceptional. The Hare Krishna explosion, kaboom, and in a short period of time, all over the world, and the energy with which Prabhupada did what he did, the volumes of books that he wrote and lectures that he gave, and so forth and so on. It's Superman with a very clear focus. Make people happy, because they're not happy. They can't be happy in ignorance. So relieve their ignorance with knowledge, and bhakti is the best way to relieve ignorance and awaken knowledge. So I was thinking, I gave an answer. yes, one could say, the quantum of faith that Prabhupada had was exceptional. And if anyone else could have that same quantum of faith, then the same exceptional outcome could be there. However, thinking more about it, particularly this morning, there's another factor, and that other factor is being empowered, the empowerment of Bhagavan. Every one of us has the same access to bhakti. And every one of us will access bhakti in different degrees, different qualities, and different ways. And that's just individuality and diversity. That's completely natural and expected. However, for someone to do what Prabhupada did, in addition to faith, he was empowered. He was empowered. Amongst the many, he was chosen, one could say, or empowered is probably a better way, by Lord Chaitanya and his spiritual master and disciplic succession to do what he did. Again, there's many persons, contemporaries and now, who are very, very knowledgeable in Bhakti Shastra or Bhakti Shastri. And that's a fundamental, and that's a requirement. And faith in the holy name is also a requirement. And Daivi, the specific empowerment. So each one can be empowered differently. Each of us can be empowered differently. And we're dependent on that empowerment, aren't we? We're not independent. In other words, say the same thing a different way. It's not a mechanical process. It's a devotional process. And the devotion process requires, it connects also with the story of Prahalad. Because he, the son of a demon, like a big-time demon, not a small-time demon, a big demon. Big demon. Let's say it again. Big demon. So much so that he terrorized the universe and intimidated the demigods, and you can't sit there. You got to be able to see the screen. We have to be able to see your face and smile. Thank you for coming. So Prahalad was empowered. How was he empowered? Well, chosen, you could say. Does that mean? The answer is no. Does that mean the personality of Godhead Vishnu is partial? You're special. You get empowerment. Sorry, Charlie, you don't get empowerment. You're a nice fellow, but you don't get empowerment like that one I've chosen. But there's credential to receive the empowerment, but it's empowerment. It's a relationship. Prahalad was particularly empowered. Great personalities are particularly empowered. There may be many in our disciplic line, many persons, but some are particularly empowered. Pure devotees, a line of pure devotees. Some are more prominent, some are less prominent. So we honor on appearance days of great personalities those particularly prominent ones. So and this is reciprocation. It's faith in the holy name, back to this topic from yesterday, but also being empowered. Not to say that others didn't have faith, like Akinchana Das Babaji. He certainly had faith in the holy name, like anything. But Prabhupada was empowered in addition to his having faith in the holy name. Particularly in comparison to the other sannyasi, not the same. And empowerment. So that was a follow-up to yesterday evening's discussion. So yesterday evening, was a very interesting session. I'll just quick mini. There's just 3 verses, 39, 40, 41. Now we're doing 42. But 39, 40, 41 was a big shift from Prahalad speaking about Lord Brahma's search for his source of emanation. Where is everything? That's the absolute truth. The absolute truth is that from which everything comes. Vedanta Sutra. So this, and one can say, he's giving a commentary to Vedanta Sutra. Bhagavatam is a commentary to Vedanta Sutra. The first sutra, numero uno, is the human form of life is meant to inquire into that which is the source of everything. And then that source of everything is the Supreme Person. And then, so Brahma, being the firstborn living entity, he had an interest to know what that source of everything is. So there are just 3 verses. And the first of the 3 verses, he searched down the stem for 100 celestial years. He was searching. That's a long time to be underwater, I tell you. That's a long time. He could hold his breath or whatever it was, I don't know. So he couldn't find the source. Climbed back up the stem, sat on the top of the stem for another long duration of time, kalena, long duration of time. He engaged in tivra tapasya. No, he didn't say what those we talked about it. Didn't say what those austerities were, but he chanting of his mantra, which he had received from Goddess Saraswati, the internal potency Goddess Saraswati, not his wife, because his wife is a manifestation of the original internal potency. So he chanted those 2 mantras. The flute of Krishna gave him the second mantra, and he did that for a long time. And then he had these 2 realizations. One was he realized the presence of the Supreme within himself compared to the Shaktis of the Supreme Lord that were invested in Prakriti. The Shaktis of the Supreme Lord are invested in material nature. And what are the varieties? Unlimited varieties. So the comparison is given like fragrance or aroma is within earth, and from Sankhya, before there's the grosser feature of earth, there's the subtle feature of aroma. One generates the other, the subtle generates the gross. So he recognized, he had the realization of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within himself, like fragrance or scent or aroma within earth. And he realized that was within him. He was searching for the Supreme who was within him. Next, he continued with that tivra tapasa, and he had a further realization of the Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, the Supreme who has many hands, many faces, many thises and many that's, indicating Super Soul, who is everywhere and is everywhere presence, has many faces, many hands, many thises and many that's, and he's everywhere. So the all-pervasiveness of the Supreme through Shaktis and through his personal feature Paramatma. And then it shifted, the mood yesterday, it shifted to, or yesterday afternoon, he had this distinct realization of his misfortune. Being in the mood of prema bhakti, he was feeling himself unqualified. He gave a list of his disqualifications, this and that and the other. And how is it possible that I, this unqualified person, can chant your glories, which is necessary for purification? But I'm so fallen, how can I chant your glories? How can I understand your glories that I'm chanting if I try it? etc. So he was speaking in this very humble way. It wasn't self-deprecating, it was just an ecstatic mood. It's a symptom of ecstasy that he was displaying. And then he was describing the consciousness, the consequences of that kind of ignorance. And then his mood shifted to not just me, but all living entities within the material creation are experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing. So you, Lord Vishnu, Lord Nrsingadev is a manifestation of Vishnu. You created, you brought all of this about. You're the one that can deliver us from the material circumstance on the other side of the Vaitarani river, in the material realm where there's no influence of time, no influence of the modes of nature, no influence of ignorance, no influence of anything that's on the temporary side. Please carry us to your side. And you're capable, so that's my appeal. And it's important to understand the way bhakti, one of the principles through which bhakti works is the Supreme Lord knows our intention, our sankalpa, our mood, and he reciprocates on the negative side and the positive side. The negative side, supposing, because it's in the verses, one eats abominable things and does abominable things. So that's creating your destiny. We're the architects. Man is the architect of his destiny. So some persons want yuck, and that's what they get in this life and the next. And some persons don't want, instead they want, and they can't do it on their own, but by the mercy of the appeal of a Vaishnava, of a caliber of Prahalad, the Supreme Lord can pick someone up and carry them to the other side of material existence. And that's the appeal, that's bhakti. The calling to this image of the fellow raising his arms and calling for Krishna. And then it's a nice image. It's very clearly in my mind. So he hears and he reciprocates. Ye yatamam prapadyante tangstataiva bhajamyam. According to our regard for him, he reciprocates accordingly. There's exceptions, there's offense, and then there's consequences for offense. It's not like I desire the consequence, but if I commit an offense, there's consequences for offense, and it's inescapable. The consequences of offense. Sin can be neutralized by bhakti. Offense, it's inescapable. To be careful, avoid offense, and know what they are and avoid them. As we're approaching through the mercy of persons like Prahalad, or like our founder Acharya, or like others that who we contacted in the course of our sojourn in the material world, that gave us access to bhakti. So here we are. And we were doing something else, every one of us doing something, maybe something good, maybe something not so good, maybe a combination. And then bhakti comes along, and if we said yes instead of let me think about it, then the course of destiny changes by the influence of the internal potency. So we're under the care of the internal potency as long as we don't slacken or desist. And especially, like this previous verse, please pick us up and carry us to the other side of the Vaitarani river. So there's Prahalad with the demigods on either side of Lord Nrsingadev, and Lord Nrsingadev gently smiling at his dear devotee Prahalad, who, by the touch of the Supreme Lord and by the association of Narada, he is in this very, very unique position of understanding the absolute truth. So we're just going to be covering one verse, but it's an important verse. You are especially kind to your devotee. Question. It's a fault, it's a dosha to be partial. So is he partial to his devotee? And as long as you're a devotee, you get partiality. As long as you're not a devotee, see you later. Good luck. Akila Guru. So some of the words in this verse, they're highlighted in colors. And it's what gets special attention by our acharyas who are commenting on this verse 42. Mo, my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world. What is the difficulty for you who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You can create the place, you can maintain the place, and you can, leave it in place, or you can lift us up as you so desire. You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities, it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. You're certainly a great personality, so we're foolish. We're qualified for your mercy. Therefore, I think you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. Trinadapi Sunichena Turo Eva Sahishnana. It's Lord Chaitanya's way of saying the same thing. Here's